Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into the story, value, design, and mysteries of a coin that many of you have in your pocket or jar, the 1987 1-cent coin, the 1987 penny, also known as the Lincoln Memorial Cent. What makes this coin interesting? What are its specifications? What varieties or errors to look out for? What drives value? And how much are some specimens really selling for? By the end, you'll have a detailed understanding of this common but occasionally surprisingly valuable coin. Let's get started. Let me start with a little history, then physical details, then varieties and errors, then condition and grading, then market/current value, then insights into what drives big money, and finally some cautionary notes if you think you have one worth a lot. The story begins with the Lincoln Cent series. The United States Lincoln 1-cent coin has been minted since 1909. First to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The obverse, front, design, a profile of Abraham Lincoln facing right, was created by Victor David Brenner. That obverse design has endured, though with various changes and updates, over the decades. The reverse, back, design for the 1987 coin is the Lincoln Memorial design. That reverse was introduced in 1959, replacing the wheat ears, reverse, used from 1909 to 1958. The designer of the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial Building depiction, is Frank Gasparo. So in 1987, the coin has on its obverse, Lincoln. In God We Trust, Liberty. The date, 1987. And on its reverse the Lincoln Memorial. United States of America, e pluribus unum. And 1 cent. CoinIdentifier.com +2 Coin Value Checker +2 Now let's talk physical specifications, composition, size, weight, etc. In 1987, the penny is not solid copper. The United States Mint long ago changed its composition, in 1982, from nearly pure copper to a mostly zinc core with a copper plating. So the 1987 penny is made of about 97.5% zinc core and 2.5% copper plating. Coin Value Checker. The mass, weight, of a 1987 penny is approximately 2.50 grams. Coin Value Checker. Its diameter is about 19.00 millimeters. Coin Value Checker. The edge is plain, i.e. no reading, no letters. All standard cents since Lincoln Memorial design have plain edges. The coin is round. Mint marks and minting numbers. The 1987 pennies were minted at several U.S. mints. The Philadelphia Mint, without a mint mark, CoinIdentifier.com +1 The Denver Mint, DE Mint mark, Coin Value Checker +1 The San Francisco Mint, S Mint mark, especially for proof coins. The S proof coins are often special in terms of quality and finish. CoinIdentifier.com +1 Mintage numbers are huge. 1987, no mint mark. Philadelphia about 4,682,466,931 coins struck. CoinIdentifier.com +11987D. Denver about 4,879,389,514 coins. Coin Value Checker. 1987 S proof coins, fewer. For example, about 4,227,728 proof coins from San Francisco. Coin Value Checker. So obviously, most 1987 pennies are extremely common. That means that unless yours is in near perfect condition or has some error/variety, its value over face value tends to be modest. Design details/symbols. On the obverse, the bust or profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, is based on Victor David Brenner's designs. Above Lincoln is the phrase, "In God We Trust." To his left is Liberty. The date, 1987, is to the right. Under some mint marks you will see D for Denver or S for San Francisco just beneath the date. The design exhibits all the standard features of Lincoln's portrait: beard, hair, clothing details, etc. Over the years, wear can erode details like Lincoln's cheek, beard, hairlines, etc., and these are important to graders. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial Building is shown in fairly good detail. You can often see the small statue of Lincoln inside, through the columns, if the coin is well struck and preserved. Around the upper rim is United States of America. Under that, E pluribus unum. And at the bottom, 1 cent. Near the staircase on the right side of the memorial you can see the initials, FG, for Frank Gasparo, the designer. The building facade, steps, pillars are part of what collectors look to see clearly when assessing condition, varieties and errors / what to look out for. Because so many were minted, the main things that can make a 1987 penny valuable are 1. Condition, how uncirculated, how sharp detail, 2. Minting errors or varieties, 3. Proof or special finish coins, 4. Rarity or unusual provenance, 5. Specialty grading in color, for red versus red-brown. Let me break those down. Now let's take a step back and talk about why the 1987 penny has become such a magnet for myths and exaggerated claims. One of the main reasons is the sheer familiarity of this coin. Because billions were minted, almost everyone in the United States has held one, seen one, or still has one sitting somewhere at home. That accessibility creates the perfect breeding ground for internet rumors claiming that certain examples are worth millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. The reality is that while coins can indeed become extremely valuable, especially when they are rare, historically significant, or struck in precious metals, the modern copper-plated zinc cent is not in that league. The transition from copper to zinc happened in 1982, and since then, the intrinsic metal value of a cent has been far less than even 1 cent, which means any extraordinary market price has to come entirely from collector demand rather than metal content. It is this low intrinsic value combined with high mintage that makes wild price claims so misleading. Still, what keeps the 1987 cent interesting to collectors is not rarity but condition. The grading system used by professionals is called the Sheldon scale, ranging from 1 to 70. A grade of 1 represents a coin that is barely identifiable, while a grade of 70 means a perfect, flawless coin under 5x magnification. Most 1987 pennies that circulated are in the range of about XF, extremely fine, to AU, almost uncirculated, at best, meaning grades from around 40 to 55. These coins have obvious wear on the high points of Lincoln's face and hair, and the details of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse are often smooth or faded. Uncirculated coins, those that never entered circulation and were preserved carefully, can reach MS, mint state, grades like MS 63, MS 64, MS 65 and higher. These show sharp details, no wear, and varying degrees of mint luster, that shiny surface that reflects light and cartwheel patterns when you tilt the coin. In addition to grade, color designation plays a huge role. Copper coins are categorized as RD, red, RB, red-brown, or BN brown. RD coins have retained at least 95% of their original red copper color, which is the bright orange-red look of a freshly minted penny. RB coins show a mix of red and brown tones, while BN coins have mostly turned brown due to oxidation. Because the copper plating on 1987 pennies is very thin, only about 20 microns thick, it can quickly darken if exposed to air, moisture, or skin oils. That's why finding a 1987 cent that is both high grade and full red is quite difficult today. Those that survive in such pristine condition can be extremely desirable to collectors and are often sent to grading companies for encapsulation and certification. Another subtle aspect of condition is strike quality. Not all coins are struck with the same force or alignment. When we step behind the scenes of the coin collecting world, one of the most powerful forces that shapes value is the concept of population rarity. This is where the official grading company population reports come into play. PCGS and NGC, the two largest grading services, keep track of how many examples of each coin they have graded at each grade level. This is known as the population report. For the 1987 1-cent coin, these reports tell an interesting story. There are thousands of examples graded between MS64 and MS66, and hundreds in MS67. But once you reach MS68, the number drops dramatically into the dozens, and MS69 is practically unheard of, just a handful of coins known. This steep drop creates what collectors call a population bottleneck, where demand is far greater than supply. That is why an MS69 can sell for thousands while an MS67 might sell for just a few dollars. It's not about age or rarity of the date itself, it's about the rarity of perfection. What makes this even more fascinating is how subtle the difference is between these grades. To the naked eye, an MS67 and an MS69 penny look almost identical. But under magnification, graders see tiny contact marks, microscopic ticks in the fields, or faint softness in the strike. Coins are mass-produced, and they hit each other during production and transport, so almost none survive perfectly flawless. That's why a modern coin like the 1987 cent, even though billions were minted, can become a major prize if one emerges with essentially no imperfections. This is what collectors call a condition rarity, a coin that is common in lower grades but rare in top grades. It's a concept that often surprises beginners, who assume rarity is only about age or mintage numbers. In reality, the 1987 penny is an excellent example of condition rarity at work. Auction results provide dramatic proof of this phenomenon. The record holder 1987 DMS69RD, certified by PCGS, sold for about $12,000. That single sale instantly transformed perceptions of the date among registry set collectors, who compete to build the highest graded sets in the world. Registry sets are ranked online by grading companies, and collectors gain prestige when they complete a set of coins in the highest possible grades. This fuels intense bidding wars over the few top pop coins. It's not that the buyer believed the coin was intrinsically worth $12,000, it's that they needed it to complete their world-class set. That desire for bragging rights creates price explosions far beyond what casual collectors expect. And yet, even this extraordinary price is still light years away from the imaginary hundreds of millions that internet rumors sometimes attach to the 1987 penny. There is also an emotional dimension to this. Collectors who grew up in the 1980s often have a nostalgic connection to coins from that decade. The 1987 penny represents a moment in their own personal history, a time of childhood allowances, vending machines, arcade games, and piggy banks. Nostalgia can be a powerful market force, quietly raising demand for otherwise common coins. As those collectors grow older and gain more disposable income, they sometimes return to the hobby and seek out pristine examples of coins from their youth. This helps explain why coins from the 1980s, once ignored, have been creeping upward in value at the highest grades. It's not universal, and it's not dramatic, but it's a subtle undercurrent in the market that helps keep demand alive for coins like the 1987 cent. Meanwhile, proof coins from 1987 tell their own story. The 1987 S-proof cents, struck in San Francisco, were made for collector sets and never intended for circulation. They are mirror-like, with deeply polished fields and frosted design elements, often described as cameo or deep cameo. These coins are much easier to find in high grades because they were handled carefully from the start. Still, achieving a perfect PR70 DCM grade is extremely difficult, and those few coins can bring strong prices, sometimes hundreds or even over $1,000. This shows another side of the market. While business strike coins are valued for surviving the chaos of circulation unscathed, proof coins are valued for absolute perfection straight from the mint. Both paths lead to premium values, but in different ways. Imagine the scene. Deep inside the Denver Mint in 1987, the clatter of machinery echoes like thunder through vast industrial halls. Stainless steel hoppers rattle as freshly blanked zinc discs, shimmering dull gray, tumble down conveyor chutes. The air smells faintly of oil and metal. These planchets, each one a tiny disc of zinc coated in a microscopic skin of copper, are lined up by vibrating feeders and fed into the coining presses with mechanical precision. Steel dies slam down at 50 tons of pressure, striking the copper plating so hard that Lincoln's solemn profile leaps out of the metal in an instant. The reverse die impresses the clean columns of the Lincoln Memorial at the same moment, all in a blink. The press releases its grip, the feeder pushes the new coin aside, and another blank takes its place. In just one day, these machines can strike millions of cents, each one identical in design yet each one destined to live its own unique life. As the newborn coins cascade off the presses, they gleam in a way few people ever see, flawless, full red luster spinning like a pinwheel when the light hits them. They are still warm from the strike as they pour into bins, thousands of perfect 1987 pennies heaped together like autumn leaves made of copper. From there they travel through counting machines, are funneled into ballistic bags that weigh over 2,000 pounds each, and are hoisted by forklifts into armored trucks. Some bags head east, some west, some north, scattering across the country. By the time they reach local banks, They are no longer individuals, just faceless numbers in the billions. Rolled into paper tubes, they find their way into registers, vending machines, pockets, purses. And then their stories begin. A boy in Illinois gets one as change from a soda machine on the first day of summer vacation. It rides in his pocket all day as he races through sprinklers, and by evening it's scuffed and dulled, its perfect luster gone. A cashier in California presses one into a customer's palm along with nickels and dimes. A girl in New York saves one in her piggy bank just because it's the newest, shiniest penny she's ever seen. Each one travels from hand to hand, gathering tiny scratches, losing its red glow, its details softening as time wears it down. They pass through millions of lives, silently bearing witness to fleeting moments of laughter, hunger, love, disappointment, and hope. By the time most of them are a few years old, they are brown and battered, just anonymous change again. But a few, just a few, escape this fate. Somewhere in a small town, a sealed 1987 mint set lies forgotten in a dresser drawer, untouched for decades. Inside, protected from air and hands, a perfect 1987 penny sleeps in darkness. Its fields are smooth and flawless, its edges sharp, its red copper surface still glowing as if it had just left the press. No scratches, no fingerprints, no dulling. Time has passed around it, but not through it. It is as pure as the day it was born. Years later, a young collector, new to the hobby, buys an old mint set at a flea market for a few dollars. He opens it under a desk lamp, turning each coin slowly in the light. When he comes to the penny, his breath catches. It blazes with color like a tiny sunrise. He sets it carefully on a velvet pad and examines it through a 10x loupe. The fields are pristine. Lincoln's cheat shows no ticks, the memorial columns are razor sharp, the rims are flawless. Could it be? He sends it to PCGS, heart pounding as he packs the box. Weeks crawl by. Then one day an email arrives. The coin has graded MS69RD. He stares at the screen, disbelieving. It is one of only a few known at that grade in the world. At auction, collectors descend like hawks. Bidding surges past 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. The final hammer falls at $12,000. The young collector is stunned. This tiny disc of copper-plated zinc, worth 1 cent in a cash register, has just changed his life. Not because of the money alone, but because of the story, because he alone among billions had the patience, the eye, and the luck to find a perfect survivor. In that moment, the 1987 penny is no longer just a coin. It is a symbol of persistence and possibility. For most people, this is the dream. The fantasy that in a jar of loose change might lie a hidden treasure. And it's true, the odds are long, but not zero. This is why collectors search bank rolls by the thousands, buying boxes of cents and examining each one under bright lamps. They spend hours with magnifiers and cotton gloves, chasing that rare glimmer of perfection. Most of the time they find nothing but worn brown coins, but every so often they find something extraordinary: a flawless surface, an off-center strike, a repunched mint mark. That rush of discovery, that instant when you realize you've found something special, is like lightning. It's addictive, and it's beautiful. It's why this hobby endures. But even beyond the hunt, the 1987 penny teaches patience. It shows how value is not always obvious, how rarity can hide in plain sight. It reminds us that even the smallest things can hold immense stories if you look closely enough. Each nick on a circulated penny is a tiny record of human touch: counters, cash drawers, sidewalks, the bottoms of pockets. It has survived decades of motion, chaos, and neglect, yet it endures. That endurance is part of its quiet magic, and it's worth remembering that even the coins that will never be valuable in money can still be valuable in meaning. A father might keep the 1987 penny he found the day his child was born. A traveler might save one from their first trip to America. A teacher might give one to a student as a good luck charm. These coins become tokens of personal history, their worth measured not in dollars but in memory. This is something no price chart can capture. It's the invisible economy of sentiment that flows alongside the visible economy of markets. So when people ask, Is a 1987 penny worth $234 million? The answer is no, but also yes, in another way. No, it will not buy a mansion or a yacht or an empire. But yes, it can be worth more than that in imagination, in hope, in the thrill of the chase and the stories we wrap around it. Money is only one way to measure value. Wonder is another, and perhaps the better one. And in that sense, every 1987 penny has the potential to be priceless, if you choose to see it that way. In the end, the story of the 1987 penny is not really about metal, or markets, or money. It is about time. It is about how something so small can endure through years, through lives, through entire eras of change, carrying with it the quiet heartbeat of history. It was born in an age before smartphones, before the internet ruled everything, when letters were still written by hand and music played on cassette tapes. It has survived through recessions, elections, wars, and revolutions in technology. It has passed through millions of hands that will never know each other, yet all briefly held the same small piece of the world. In that way, the 1987 penny is a thread connecting strangers across decades, a silent witness to lives that flashed by while it continued on, unassuming and constant. Most of them are gone now, melted, discarded, buried in landfills, lost in couch cushions and street gutters. But some still circulate, quietly slipping from hand to hand as though nothing has changed. When you hold one, you are holding something that has seen more than you can imagine. It has heard the clatter of old register drawers, the laughter of children buying candy, the murmured goodbyes of lovers slipping a coin into a payphone. It has seen the inside of jukeboxes, laundromats, vending machines, bus fare boxes. It has traveled in wallets across deserts and oceans, sat in glove compartments during cross-country road trips, jingled in the pocket of someone dancing at a concert in 1987. It has lived countless lives, yet it remains itself, simple, solid, eternal. And though the world has changed, the image it carries has not. Lincoln's face still gazes forward, calm and unwavering, just as he did in 1909 when the first Lincoln cents were struck. The Lincoln Memorial still stands proud on the reverse, its columns as straight and steady as they were on the day the design was engraved. In a world where almost nothing lasts, this design has endured over a century, becoming not just a coin but a cultural icon. It has been present in the pockets of presidents and farmers, astronauts and janitors, poets and children. It is the most democratic object in America. Everyone has touched one, and everyone's touch leaves the faintest trace of their story behind. When people hear rumors about a single 1987 penny being worth hundreds of millions of dollars, they are drawn not by the number but by the dream. The dream that something overlooked and ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary. That in the chaos of life, luck might land gently in their palm. That maybe, just maybe, the smallest thing could change everything. It is this dream that fuels treasure hunts and late-night roll searches, this dream that keeps the lights burning on desks where collectors hunch with loupes and lamps, searching for that glint of perfection. They know, deep down, they probably won't find a fortune, but they also know they might find wonder. And sometimes wonder is even better, because what these collectors are really searching for is not wealth, but connection. Connection to history, to craftsmanship, to the millions of lives that touched these coins before them. Connection to the patience and precision of the mint workers who created them, to the artists who engraved their designs, to the long river of time that carries them from generation to generation. In finding that connection, they find something priceless. They find meaning. And meaning, unlike money, never loses its value. So the 1987 penny does not need to be worth $234 million to be precious. It already is. It is precious because it reminds us that beauty can hide in plain sight, that greatness can wear an ordinary face, that even the smallest things can carry whole worlds inside them. It asks us to slow down, to notice, to wonder, to see the miracle in what we take for granted. To remember that value is not just measured in dollars, but in stories, in memories, in the quiet magic of survival. Someday, maybe a century from now, someone will find a 1987 penny in an attic or a time capsule or the bottom of an old trunk. They will turn it in their fingers, marveling at how something so simple has lasted so long. They will wonder about the hands that held it, the lives it has seen, the eras it has crossed. And for a brief moment, that person will feel time collapsing, the decades folding inward, the invisible thread of human history pulling tight through that single small coin. And they will understand what we forget too easily, that nothing is truly ordinary, not if you look closely enough, and that is the secret of the 1987 penny. It is not rare in number. It is rare in what it represents. It is a reminder that value is not always loud, not always obvious, not always counted on a ledger. Sometimes value is quiet, patient, hidden, waiting to be noticed. Waiting for someone to care. Waiting for someone to see it for what it has always been, a miracle of endurance, a shard of history, a spark of beauty small enough to carry in your pocket. So the next time you see a penny lying in the dust, dull and forgotten, stop for a moment. Pick it up. Turn it in the light. Look for the date. And if it says 1987, smile. Because you are holding more than just a coin. You are holding a story that has taken almost 4 decades to reach you. A survivor of time. A whisper from another world. A reminder that even the smallest things can outlast us all, and that sometimes, the most ordinary objects carry the greatest treasures of all. Before a 1987 penny even existed as a coin, it began life as raw metal. At that time, the U.S. Mint used a core of nearly pure zinc, about 99.2% zinc with a tiny balance of copper and other trace elements, coated in a thin layer of pure copper electroplated onto the surface. This design, introduced in mid-1982, replaced the older solid bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. The reason was cost. Copper prices had risen so high that making each penny out of almost pure copper actually cost more than 1 cent. So the Mint developed this new copper-plated zinc planchet, which weighs about 2.5 grams instead of the 3.11 grams of the older bronze cents. That weight difference may seem small, but multiplied across billions of coins, it saved millions of dollars. The planchet-making process is precise and complex. It begins with huge coils of zinc sheet metal, thousands of pounds each, rolled out like industrial ribbon. A machine called a blanking press punches round discs out of this strip, like a giant cookie cutter. Each blank is exactly 19.05 millimeters in diameter. After blanking, the rough-edged discs are sent through a machine called an upsetting mill, which squeezes their edges upward slightly to create a raised rim. This rim will help contain the metal when it is struck in the dies. These freshly rimmed blanks are then cleaned and sent through an electroplating line, where they are dipped in a chemical copper solution and charged with electricity to attract a layer of copper only about 8 microns thick. This is thinner than a human hair, but it gives the coin its distinctive reddish color. At this point, the blank becomes a true planchet, ready to be struck. Planchets are inspected for defects like missing plating, cracks, or improper rims. The U.S. Mint has strict tolerances for weight. A 1987 penny should weigh 2.50 grams with an allowed variation of plus or minus 0.13 grams. Any outside this tolerance are rejected. This tight control ensures that coins will work properly in vending machines and sorting equipment. Only the approved planchets move forward to the coining presses, where their final transformation occurs. The striking process is astonishing in its power and precision. Each planchet is fed between two steel dies. The obverse die with Lincoln's portrait facing up, the reverse die with the Lincoln Memorial facing down, inside a coining press that slams down with about 50 tons of force. The strike happens in less than 1/10 of a second. The metal flows outward and upward under the pressure, filling the tiniest recesses of the dies. The raised rim forms fully under this immense squeeze. The result is a fully struck coin, its design crisp and sharp, its surface gleaming with the radial flow lines that give uncirculated coins their mint luster. The planchet is now a penny, but the process is not perfect. Dies wear down over time, growing slightly mushy in their details. Sometimes debris gets between the dies and the planchet, causing weak strikes or loss of detail. Occasionally dies clash together with no planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions of each side on the other, known as die clashes. Sometimes a planchet enters off-center and only part of it is struck, creating an off-center error. Sometimes two planchets feed at once and strike each other, creating rare double-struck or bonded coins. And sometimes the copper plating fails to adhere properly, leading to plating blisters or missing plating spots. These are the mint errors and varieties that collectors prize, because they are visual proof of something going wrong in an otherwise exacting system. A dramatic off-center 1987 penny or one struck on a blank from another denomination can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, even in circulated condition, because they are so rare. Even perfectly struck coins are not all created equal. Minute differences in die alignment, pressure, or planchet quality can affect sharpness, luster, and eye appeal. This is where grading comes in, the art and science of judging a coin's condition. Professional grading is done under bright halogen lighting at about 5 inches from the coin, with the naked eye first and then with a 5x magnifier. Graders look for contact marks, tiny nicks from other coins, usually in the fields or on Lincoln's cheek and jaw. They examine luster quality, strike sharpness, rim integrity, and overall eye appeal. The Sheldon numeric scale runs from 1 to 70, with mint state grades from 60 to 70 reserved for uncirculated coins. A 1987 penny fresh from a mint set might grade MS65 or MS66 if it has only a few faint marks. MS67 requires nearly flawless surfaces. MS68 demands almost total perfection, and MS69 must be essentially flawless to the naked eye with only microscopic imperfections visible under magnification. MS70 is absolute perfection, theoretically possible, but for 1987 cents, none are known. Grading is subjective, but consistent standards are enforced by the major third-party services, PCGS, and GCE, and ANAX. These companies encapsulate coins in tamper-proof holders, called slabs, which both protect them and certify their grade. This grading process is what transforms an ordinary penny into a collectible. A raw coin worth 1 cent might become worth hundreds or even thousands if it receives an MS69 RD grade. The RD means red, referring to the full original copper color. Over time, copper oxidizes and darkens, turning red-brown, and eventually brown. Red coins are much rarer, so they bring much higher prices. This is why collectors store high-grade cents in airtight holders with desiccants to prevent toning. Another subtle technical factor is strike designation. Proof coins from 1987, made only in San Francisco with an S mint mark, are given designations like cameo or deep cameo, DCM, based on the contrast between frosted raised details and mirror-like fields. The stronger the contrast, the higher the premium. For business strike coins, the sharpness of the strike can influence grade. A coin struck from fresh dies will show every tiny detail in Lincoln's hair and the memorial steps, while a late die-state strike may be softer, which can hold it back from the top grades even if it's unmarked. Behind all of this lies an almost invisible world of tolerances and micromeasurements. The dies are hubbed from master designs using hydraulic presses. Their surface relief is measured in microns. The die faces are polished to remove microscopic scratches that would transfer to coins. They are hardened to about 60 on the Rockwell C scale, tough enough to withstand hundreds of thousands of strikes before wearing out. Even then, they are inspected constantly for signs of fatigue. When they fail, they can shatter explosively, throwing shards of steel and damaging machinery. The entire system must balance immense power with delicate precision, a dance of steel, pressure, and timing choreographed down to the fraction of a second. And out of this chaos, billions of perfect coins emerge. To most people, the 1987 penny is just a bit of change, but when you see how much engineering and control went into making it, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a marvel of industrial art, mass-produced yet requiring superhuman precision. It becomes a bridge between the raw earth and human imagination, zinc pulled from mines, purified, shaped, plated, struck, and sent spinning into the world as money, as history, as memory. And because perfection is so rare in such a massive process, that is what makes a flawless specimen so valuable. Every coin carries secrets on its surface, and the 1987 penny is no exception. Beneath its familiar design lies a hidden universe of tiny details invisible to casual eyes but magnetic to experts. While most people see only Lincoln's profile and the memorial's pillars, seasoned collectors see a map of clues, the subtle fingerprints of the dies that struck it, the unique quirks of the machinery, the faint scars of the minting process. It is in these hidden places that the rarest treasures are found. Doubled dies are among the most famous of these hidden treasures. They occur not when the coin is struck twice, as many assume, but when the die itself is misaligned during its creation. The process of making a working die involves pressing a hardened master hub into a softer steel die blank multiple times to fully transfer the design. If the hub shifts even slightly between impressions, the design can be doubled. When that flawed die goes on to strike thousands of coins, each one carries that doubling forever. On a 1987 cent, a true double die might show as thick, split lines on the date, the letters of liberty, or the motto "I in God we trust," or on the reverse lettering United States of America or 1 cent. Most such doubling is microscopic, but occasionally it is bold enough to see with the naked eye, and when it is, collectors take notice. A dramatic doubled die can transform a common cent into a multi-$1,000 prize. While no major, Famous double dies are listed for 1987 cents. Specialists still search tirelessly, knowing that undiscovered varieties could still be hiding in plain sight. Repunched mint marks are another window into the mint's human side. Before 1990, mint marks were punched into working dies by hand. If the punch slipped or had to be applied more than once, it could leave a faint shadow of the first impression. These are known as RPMs, repunched mint marks. On 1987 cents, the D mint mark from Denver was applied this way, and some show subtle doubling, tilting, or overlapping of the letter. Under magnification, the shadow of a second D, slightly north, south, or sideways from the primary one can be seen. These are minor errors but highly collectible to variety hunters, who catalog them meticulously. A dramatic RPM can fetch far more than a normal 1987 D, especially if the coin is also in a high grade. Then there are die cracks, tiny raised lines on the coin where a crack has formed in the die face, allowing metal to flow into it during striking. These cracks can appear anywhere, but often form from the rim inward. Over time, cracks grow, sometimes forming dramatic raised lines called retained cuds, and eventually pieces of the die can break off completely, creating full cuds, blank, raised blobs where part of the design is missing. These late-stage die failures are rare and fascinating because they show the death of a die frozen on a single coin. A 1987 penny with a full cud can be worth many times face value simply because it captures that final instant of collapse. To error collectors, these are not mistakes. They are the coin's last breath, its unique fingerprint of imperfection. Clashes are another sought-after oddity. If the press cycles with no planchet between the dies, the two dies strike each other directly, imprinting parts of their design into each other. The next coins struck then carry ghostly outlines of the opposite design. On a clashed 1987 cent, you might see faint traces of Lincoln's profile floating in the fields of the reverse, or the memorial's lines faintly appearing behind Lincoln's head. These eerie images fascinate collectors and tell a vivid story of a split-second mishap in the relentless rhythm of the minting floor. There are also transitional planchet errors, some of the rarest and most dramatic finds. These occur when leftover planchets from a previous year's composition are accidentally fed into the presses. The best-known example is the 1983 copper cent struck on a leftover 1982 bronze planchet. For 1987, the official composition was copper-plated zinc, so any 1987 penny found weighing 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 would almost certainly be a transitional bronze error, an extraordinary rarity that could be worth thousands. To detect such a treasure, collectors weigh their coins on precision digital scales, hunting for that elusive heavier outlier. Even a difference of half a gram can hint at something extraordinary. A single transitional error could make headlines, because it proves that the mint's careful sorting system sometimes lets history slip through its fingers. Specialists also search for tiny design anomalies called varieties, minor changes to the dies from polishing, overpolishing, or misalignment. On some 1987 cents, the memorial's designer initials FG on the reverse are faint or missing because the die was overpolished, grinding away shallow details. Others show extra thickness on the date, or motto from hub doubling. A handful show tilted mint marks or slanted dates from misaligned punching. Each of these micro-oddities tells a story of the human element in the minting process, the tiny slips of hand and machine that make one coin different from billions of siblings. Finding these anomalies requires patience, powerful magnification, and a trained eye. Variety specialists work under bright halogen lamps with 10x and 20x loops, rotating coins slowly, looking for split serifs on letters, thickened strokes, die markers like tiny die scratches or chips that prove a match to known catalog varieties. They record their finds in databases like Kanika and Wechsler's die varieties. Each discovery adds a new branch to the vast family tree of the Lincoln cent series. To most people, these differences are invisible. But to specialists, they are treasure maps, proof that no two coins are truly identical, that even in a world of machines, individuality survives. This is the secret world hidden on the surface of every 1987 penny. A world of microdramas frozen in metal. A world where a tiny crack can tell the story of a die's final strike, where a doubled letter can reveal a momentary slip decades ago, where a heavier weight can prove a coin is an accidental time traveler from an earlier age. This is where the real magic lies, not in imaginary million-dollar myths, but in the thrill of discovering something no one has seen before. In the way your heart leaps when you tilt a coin under the light, and something strange glints back at you, something the mint never meant to be there. That feeling, the jolt of wonder, the flash of mystery, is what drives collectors to search millions of coins just to find one dot, and when they do find one, even the smallest anomaly, every coin carries secrets on its surface, and the 1987 penny is no exception. Beneath its familiar design lies a hidden universe of tiny details invisible to casual eyes but magnetic to experts. While most people see only Lincoln's profile and the memorial's pillars, seasoned collectors see a map of clues, the subtle fingerprints of the dies that struck it, the unique quirks of the machinery, the faint scars of the minting process. It is in these hidden places that the rarest treasures are found. Doubled dies are among the most famous of these hidden treasures. They occur not when the coin is struck twice, as many assume, but when the die itself is misaligned during its creation. The process of making a working die involves pressing a hardened master hub into a softer steel die blank multiple times to fully transfer the design. If the hub shifts even slightly between impressions, the design can be doubled. When that flawed die goes on to strike thousands of coins, each one carries that doubling forever. On a 1987 cent, a true double die might show as thick, split lines on the date, the letters of liberty, or the motto "I in God we trust," or on the reverse lettering United States of America or 1 cent. Most such doubling is microscopic, but occasionally it is bold enough to see with the naked eye, and when it is, collectors take notice. A dramatic doubled die can transform a common cent into a multi-thousand-dollar prize. While no major, famous doubled dies are listed for 1987 cents, specialists still search tirelessly, knowing that undiscovered varieties could still be hiding in plain sight. Repunched mint marks are another window into the mint's human side. Before 1990, mint marks were punched into working dies by hand. If the punch slipped or had to be applied more than once, it could leave a faint shadow of the first impression. These are known as RPMs, repunched mint marks. On 1987 cents, the D mint mark from Denver was applied this way, and some show subtle doubling, tilting, or overlapping of the letter. Under magnification, the shadow of a second D, slightly north, south, or sideways from the primary one can be seen. These are minor errors but highly collectible to variety hunters, who catalog them meticulously. A dramatic RPM can fetch far more than a normal 1987 D, especially if the coin is also in a high grade. Then there are die cracks, tiny raised lines on the coin where a crack has formed in the die face, allowing metal to flow into it during striking. These cracks can appear anywhere, but often form from the rim inward. Over time, cracks grow, sometimes forming dramatic raised lines called retained cuds, and eventually pieces of the die can break off completely, creating full cuds, blank, raised blobs where part of the design is missing. These late-stage die failures are rare and fascinating because they show the death of a die frozen on a single coin. A 1987 penny with a full cud can be worth many times face value simply because it captures that final instant of collapse. To era collectors, these are not mistakes. They are the coin's last breath, its unique fingerprint of imperfection. Clashes are another sought-after oddity. If the press cycles with no planchet between the dies, the two dies strike each other directly, imprinting parts of their design into each other. The next coins struck then carry ghostly outlines of the opposite design. On a clashed 1987 cent, you might see faint traces of Lincoln's profile floating in the fields of the reverse, or the memorial's lines faintly appearing behind Lincoln's head. These eerie images fascinate collectors and tell a vivid story of a split-second mishap in the relentless rhythm of the minting floor. There are also transitional planchet errors, some of the rarest and most dramatic finds. These occur when leftover planchets from a previous year's composition are accidentally fed into the presses. The best-known example is the 1983 copper cent struck on a leftover 1982 bronze planchet. For 1987, the official composition was copper-plated zinc, so any 1987 penny found weighing 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 would almost certainly be a transitional bronze error, an extraordinary rarity that could be worth thousands. To detect such a treasure, collectors weigh their coins on precision digital scales, hunting for that elusive heavier outlier. Even a difference of half a gram can hint at something extraordinary. A single transitional error could make headlines, because it proves that the mint's careful sorting system sometimes lets history slip through its fingers. Specialists also search for tiny design anomalies called varieties, minor changes to the dies from polishing, overpolishing, or misalignment. On some 1987 cents, the memorial's designer initials FG on the reverse are faint or missing because the die was overpolished, grinding away shallow details. Others show extra thickness on the date, or motto from hub doubling. A handful show tilted mint marks or slanted dates from misaligned punching. Each of these micro-oddities tells a story of the human element in the minting process, the tiny slips of hand and machine that make one coin different from billions of siblings. Finding these anomalies requires patience, powerful magnification, and a trained eye. Variety specialists work under bright halogen lamps with 10x and 20x loops, rotating coins slowly, looking for split serifs on letters, thickened strokes, die markers like tiny die scratches or chips that prove a match to known catalog varieties. They record their finds in databases like Kanika and Wechsler's die varieties. Each discovery adds a new branch to the vast family tree of the Lincoln Cent series. To most people, these differences are invisible. But to specialists, they are treasure maps, proof that no two coins are truly identical, that even in a world of machines, individuality survives. This is the secret world hidden on the surface of every 1987 penny. A world of microdramas frozen in metal. A world where a tiny crack can tell the story of a die's final strike, where a doubled letter can reveal a momentary slip decades ago, where a heavier weight can prove a coin is an accidental time traveler from an earlier age. This is where the real magic lies, not in imaginary million-dollar myths, but in the thrill of discovering something no one has seen before. In the way your heart leaps when you tilt a coin under the light, and something strange glints back at you, something the mint never meant to be there. That feeling, the jolt of wonder, the flash of mystery, is what drives collectors to search millions of coins just to find one dot, and when they do find one, even the smallest anomaly, they know they are holding something utterly unique. A single 1987 penny that is unlike any other. A survivor not just of time, but of chance. An accidental masterpiece born from error, carrying the ghost of the mint's heartbeat in its metal. And in that moment, it is priceless. Not because it will sell for millions, but because it has revealed the secret truth of coins, that perfection is rare, but uniqueness is everywhere, if you care enough to look. The strange thing about coins is how far they travel. They are born in one place, yet they wander endlessly, slipping through lives and landscapes like tiny time travelers. A 1987 penny might have been struck in Denver or Philadelphia, but within weeks it could be anywhere. It could have crossed highways in the glove box of a family car, rattled in the change drawer of a diner in Chicago, clinked into the tip jar of a cafe in New York, then found its way into the pocket of a tourist flying to Europe. There are 1987 pennies today in Paris metro stations, in the soil of Australian backyards, in the corners of Tokyo vending machines, in the wooden bowls of remote Alaskan trading posts. They have crossed oceans without passports, passed borders without permission, and survived decades of shifting hands unnoticed. Each one carries a secret map of everywhere it has been, though no one will ever see it. Some 1987 cents never left their original owners, instead being tucked away as keepsakes the day they were minted. Parents sealed them in little plastic holders for children born that year, small copper tokens of time. They sat for decades in jewelry boxes, in baby albums, in the drawers of writing desks, aging silently alongside the children they marked. For those children, Now grown, the 1987 penny is not just a coin, it is their first year, their origin pressed in metal. They hold it and remember old photographs, old birthday candles, the faces of loved ones who have vanished. In that moment, the coin becomes something no price could measure. It becomes a vessel of memory. Artists have long understood this strange power. Some have set 1987 pennies into necklaces, bracelets, cufflinks, wedding charms. Others have carved them into miniature sculptures, or drilled them into mosaics that shimmer with the soft glow of copper. Some have painted them, polished them to mirrors, or embedded them into resin sculptures that freeze their worn surfaces in glowing crystal forever. In these artworks, the penny becomes not just money but meaning, a fragment of the past reimagined as beauty. Viewers who see it may not know its year, but something in its familiar design touches them anyway. The calm face of Lincoln, the elegant lines of the memorial, the echo of countless hands that once held IT.I in classrooms. 1987 pennies have helped children learn math, history, and science. Teachers have handed them out for counting games, for showing the difference between copper and zinc, for measuring mass and density. Students have lined them up by date, seeing decades unfurl across the desk. Science fairs have used them in experiments to grow verdigris, the green patina that blooms when copper meets air and moisture, showing the chemistry of time. Physics lessons have balanced them on their edges to explore center of gravity, while art classes have used them for brass rubbings and textures. In these small ways, the 1987 penny has taught countless children without ever saying a word. Some have gone even farther, sealed into time capsules buried under schools and libraries, waiting for hands decades in the future to open them. Imagine that moment, someone in the year 2087 prying open a metal box and finding a 1987 penny inside, bright and untouched, a century-old whisper from the past. They will hold it gently, as though it might dissolve, marveling at its perfect preservation. To them it will be as ancient as the 1887 coins are to us now. It will carry the scent of nostalgia for a world they never knew. The penny will outlive the buildings around it, the people who buried it, the entire world it once belonged to. That is its quiet magic. It is stronger than memory. And some 1987 pennies have gone far beyond Earth itself. Astronauts have carried them as personal mementos, small enough to fit in a spacesuit pocket yet heavy with meaning. In the silence of orbit, far above the spinning blue globe, they have floated alongside pens and paper clips, tiny anchors of home. When those astronauts returned, they gave them to their children, their friends, their museums. In those moments, the 1987 penny became something cosmic, a speck of human civilization that touched the stars and came back. It had no practical purpose up there, yet it meant everything. It was proof that even the humblest objects can follow us into the heavens. Even when they remain on Earth, 1987 pennies have drifted into the most unexpected corners of human life. Some have been soldered into good luck charms carried by soldiers in their pockets on deployments overseas. Some have been placed under the thresholds of new houses, following the old superstition that a coin by the door brings fortune to the home. Some have been slipped into the shoes of brides on their wedding days, echoing the old rhyme of something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, and a penny in your shoe. In these rituals, the coin becomes a vessel of hope. It is no longer just a cent, it is a wish made solid. Others have been lost entirely, dropped in fields and forests, buried in river mud, trapped between floorboards of old houses, waiting silently for future hands to find them. They may lie untouched for centuries until some curious soul digs them up, brushing off the soil to see Lincoln's face glint in the light again. That moment, when time collapses and the past speaks through metal, is what gives the 1987 penny its deepest power. It endures. It waits. It carries the world forward without complaint, and so, the 1987 penny has outlived its role as currency. It has become something else, a secret thread woven through human life. It has passed through our greatest joys and our darkest griefs, through our most ordinary days and our most extraordinary moments. It has crossed continents, oceans, and even the void of space, without ever changing its shape. It is constant in a world that never stops changing. And in that constancy, it has become not just money, not just metal, but meaning itself, small enough to hold in your hand, yet vast enough to hold the weight of human history. Long after our voices have faded and our footsteps have disappeared from the earth, the 1987 penny will still remain. Long after the cities we built have crumbled and the screens we stared at have gone dark, long after our stories have thinned to whispers and our names have slipped from memory, it will still lie quietly in the dust somewhere, waiting. It was never meant to last forever, yet it will. It will survive the fashions and fads, the passing empires, the endless rising and falling of human noise. It will outlive us because it does not hurry, does not change, does not care. It simply endures. That is its secret. That is its power. Imagine the far future. Centuries from now, when the year 1987 is as distant as the 1700s are to us, when the world has reshaped itself beyond recognition, someone will find this coin. Perhaps there will be an archaeologist brushing soil from its surface under an alien sun. Perhaps there will be a curious child exploring the ruins of a forgotten place. Perhaps there will be a traveler on a distant colony world, opening an ancient trunk left behind by their ancestors. They will turn it slowly in their hand, feel the slight cool weight of it, and see a face staring back from the past. Lincoln's calm gaze, worn smooth yet still present, still patient, still enduring. And in that moment, something impossible will happen. Time will fold. The decades between will vanish. And that future soul will be touching you, and me, and everyone who ever touched this coin before. They will be holding our world in their fingers, and for a heartbeat they will know that we were here. That is what gives the 1987 penny its true value. Not its metal, not its rarity, not even the myths of unimaginable riches. Its value is time. It is a seed of the past still alive in the present, still reaching toward the future. It is proof that even the smallest things can carry eternity inside them. It whispers that nothing is ever truly lost, only waiting to be found again. It reminds us that the moments of our lives, fleeting, fragile, easily forgotten, can leave traces stronger than we imagine. A laugh shared, a hand held, a coin passed across a counter. The world forgets the people, but the penny remembers the touch, and so it waits. Somewhere, a 1987 cent sits at the bottom of a drawer, or buried beneath the roots of a tree, or hidden between the pages of an old book. It does not move. It does not age. It simply waits for the next hand, the next spark of wonder, the next set of eyes to see it not as a scrap of metal but as a message across time. It will pass through lives yet unborn, through places yet unbuilt, through stories yet unwritten. It will keep traveling long after the last of us has gone, carrying with it a silent truth, that greatness does not need to be grand. That meaning does not need to be loud. That even the humblest thing can outlast us all. So when you see a 1987 penny lying in the dust, stop. Pick it up. Feel its weight. Listen to its silence. Know that you are holding more than a coin. You are holding a fragment of forever. A survivor of countless journeys. A witness to worlds. A voice from long ago still speaking, still shining, still alive. You are holding time itself, small enough to slip into your pocket, strong enough to endure the endless turning of the earth. And as you let it fall softly back into your palm, remember this: someday we will all be gone, but the penny will still be here. Still shining. Still waiting. Still telling our story.